I hate the rain. It's raining outside, which is fun. I have another night class because I do all my classes at night. Anyway, got a new assignment. Well, not new assignment, updated assignment. And one of the big things here is that I have to make nested if statements. So the problem was, I was like, okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make a game where you're bouncing like these two different balls around and seeing like how much they hit each other. They're like, all right, what we're gonna do, nested if statement. Phenomenal, except for the fact that the speed and heading of the balls can't be included in a nested if statement because they don't count as variables. I don't know, I don't get it. We'll see, I'm gonna mess around with it. Anyway, I'll check in later.
What? Who was the first major program to experiment with a wild colored field?
Boise State.
I
thought you were going to say.
Why were the two Boise State questions?
Anyway, there's like a football party when I was trying to do all the work on my things, like a football watch party. So I did a bunch of work without like doing thought updates on this thing. So I'm kind of gonna like work you through those now, even though it's a little bit later in the time, just because that's when I can finally get to it. Anyway, so see you in a sec.
All right, this is an update. This is the app. The big problem I'm running into is twofold. First, this phone thing is outdated, so the actual pixel size for like a real phone is completely different. So I'll show you the video when I screencast this to my own phone, but this space right here, where it says screen one, all of this doesn't actually exist. So it's just blank blue bars right at the top of my thing. So it just makes everything smaller, but there's no way for me to move the canvas up because that's like the height of the canvas. And I could give it a bigger size, you know, I could do that, but it doesn't actually, it just makes my canvas smaller on the pixel thing. And it doesn't make it taller, it just makes it wider. So I'm kind of like stuck in that regard, which is annoying and a nuisance. But that's kind of why that's happening there. And I'm not entirely sure how to deal with that. So that's the first problem. And then I'll show you kind of what we have going on next. Jump cut back to my face again. All right. This is the block code that I'm basically using. So we're going to go through each one of these kind of piece by piece at a time. So up here is when you click the button, it resets the balls to a specific location and sets their speed to 0. That's because if a ball bounces fast enough or just hits an angle at a certain thing, it can just clip out of bounds. And there's really no real way to like just stop it from clipping out of bounds because there's no like clear wall function. I have two if statements which are designed to reset and stop the speed of the balls from getting too fast. But the problem is that like this does not actually work at all. And I think that's because these if statements have to be contained within one of these statements right here. So I'm going to mess and see if I can make those work. These two things right here make it so that when you fling the ball or you flick it on the screen, it moves and it gets its speed and heading. These are for a thing which is like, I have a little collision thing that when the balls collide based on speed, it determines what color they become. And so this just resets their color. This is designed to like cause a bounce so that when the ball hits the screen, it bounces off. And so it just inverts the heading and then it multiplies the speed. So it just starts going in like the opposite direction. This causes it to like totally glitch out. Actually, maybe if I set it at 1.5, it would fix the thing. I want it to go like slightly faster, maybe like 1.05. Maybe that'll help it. All right. And then up next, we have another thing right here, which is like the exact same thing, but just for the second ball. And then here's my first, we're required to have nested if statements, and I don't even know if this nested if statement is useful enough. But if the ball collides with the other ball and the speed is high enough, it changes the color of the ball for like a real quick second, just so you can tell kind of like, hey, they collided, and I guess that looks cool. I don't know. I'll show you what this kind of looks like in practice on the app, and then we can go from there. All right, and then we have to wait for it. You scan the QR code and it loads, and you can't see it, but I'm looking at a little bar, and then the balls show up. See, like I was talking about that blank space up there, I can't really seem to do anything about. And then you can, the flicks are weird, but you can do it. And then you flick, they collide, whichever one's faster turns white, and then it hits the wall. And if you don't change the speed heading, it just clips like that right out of bounds, because the collision only works properly. So you have to like reset the balls, and then if you can, it only works sometimes. See, so it does that, but it's supposed to like bounce completely negatively off the wall, which it doesn't do for some reason. So I'm gonna go mess around with it and see if I can fix that before we have to head to class. Scan the QR code and wait again. Let's see if this worked. I changed the headings again to make it negative. Maybe that'll help it. I said the Flick app is like terrible. I don't know why the touchscreen is so unresponsive on this. There we go. Then they bounce, and they just missed, so they don't have a collision with each other. They don't go very fast. And then they bounce off because you set the speed to negative and the heading towards negative. And then they just... It's quite difficult. The flung mechanic doesn't really seem to work for me super duper well. There you go. And so they change color when they bounce because that's of the nested if statement. Another problem that runs into is that if they stay alongside each other too long, sometimes they'll get stuck. But like, I don't know. At this point, I'm just going to let them run and see if they start bouncing fast enough to clip out of bounds, or if my speed problem fixed it. You know, in an ideal world, that little blue one down in the corner just hit and bounced off. I was kind of hoping it would like take the corner and bounce around. But it doesn't look like it will. And then they're gonna collide, and boom, it turns white for just a second, and then it unturns white. I probably could have set a timer to do that, but like I didn't, so boo-hoo hit, I guess. And they slowly get faster. I don't like how slow they speed up, because it's like half a percentage every single time, but I think that keeps them bouncing around enough. And I think I may need to add another piece to this puzzle of like stuff happening to make it any good, but we'll see. And then I can just reset those balls if I want. It resets them to a completely different location. Once again, the flung mechanic is horrible. This app is horrible. I hate everything about it, but this is what I've been doing. Also of note, before I forget, here's all the different things I'm using. Oh yeah, my companion app. All right, number one, I'm using all of these orange things, which are the controls. I'm using green, those type of green right here. Oh my goodness, I broke it already. Where am I using the green? I'm using the green right there, so I'm using logic. I'm using math. I'm not using text or lists or dictionaries. I'm using color there. I'm changing the color around, and then I'm using variables. So I'm missing everything but procedures, dictionaries, lists, and texts. And then I'm using canvases and bolts and buttons. So there you go.